Go.
Good afternoon, families, and welcome. Welcome to the COVID Coalition for Families and Youth. The COVID313 Coalition has continued to bring you information that you can use to keep you healthy, to make sure that you are informed not only throughout COVID, but at some point, hopefully, that we remain knowledgeable and powerful after this pandemic. I do want to let you know, those that are joining us, is that be aware that even though we have been coming to you now for 2.5 years, we are going to take about a 1-month break. And we'll be returning on September the 22nd, again with information that is about our health, basic needs, education, and so importantly, always social justice. So we're going to go ahead and get started with our program. And my name is Jametta Lilly. I am blessed to serve as the CEO of the Detroit Parent Network. I'm also a really proud member of this COVID313 Community Coalition and all the people that you're going to see later that have been making this work happen over this period of time. And so we're going to go ahead and get started with our program. But before we start, if you would take a moment, go into the chat. Tell us where you're coming from. And maybe you have a pressing question. Maybe it's about health, maybe it's about education or some basic needs. And if we can't answer those for you today, we're going to make sure that we get that information to you. So as we always do, we work to have translation. And we're always pleased to have, when we can, ASL, who's not able to join us today. However, another one of our awesome partners, Christina Guzman, will be providing our Spanish translation to families. And I'm going to go ahead and ask Christina if you would do the welcome.
Bienvenidos hoy a la charla de COVID-19. Aquí con todos nosotros cada jueves. Si quieren escuchar en español, estamos en vivo en la página de Facebook de UNI, de UNI, Urban Neighborhood Initiatives, o vayan en el chat y allí va a haber un enlace para que puedan escuchar en la traducción en vivo en español. Gracias.
Gracias, Christina.
You're welcome.
Very much appreciated. So thank you again. And to the expert that's going to join us today in this really important timeline, because we are on the verge of our primaries, and it's important that we're understanding about the voting process, and we are making sure that you have accurate and factual information. But we want to make sure, please, any guests that come on, that you speak slowly for our translators. And if we're running over time, then we'll let you know and go ahead and move forward. Again, I want to let you know, those that are joining us and have consistently, or even if this is your first time, we're going to be off until September the 22nd, and then we'll be doing a monthly but powerful program every single month. So, speaking about power, one of the things that we have said consistently, in fact, the very reason why over 20 different organizations came together 2.5 years ago was that we know that knowledge is power. And we also know that to affect the change that all of us deserve and our children deserve, it means that we are exercising our most fundamental right, and that is the right to vote. And to help us understand what is a lot of the myths or some of the misinformation about the voting process, and also what to be thinking about and looking for, and creating our plan to vote, to exercise our knowledge and our power, we're really pleased to have come join us is Tamika Ramsey. Tamika is the co-director of Michigan Voice, who's an important entity and has been working with us all across this state to make sure that your voices, family, and the voices of so many people that are usually marginalized are heard loud and clear. So with that, Tamika, welcome.
Tamika is not on yet. I was going to just show your, if you can look at your text, Rita and Jametta. She'll be on at 12:10. So Rita,
okay.
I think it's helpful
no problem at all.
First.
So
if we have the health slide,
go ahead.
No, if we have the health information that Rita can share first, that'd be awesome, I think.
Okay, wonderful. And Rita, you want to tell us your full name and the wonderful organization that you're going to be sharing about today?
Hi, Jametta. Again, I am so very happy to be back live. My name is Rita Sept, Communications and Marketing Specialist at Chaz Center. And we are also a proud member of the COVID313 Coalition for Families and Students. And I've normally been working behind the scenes with the planning committee. So again, I'm excited to be in front of the camera today. And I want to share with you that Chaz Center is offering the COVID-19 vaccine for children ages 6 months and up. We started the administering vaccine. You don't have to be a patient. You do not have to make an appointment. It is preferred, but you do not have to make an appointment. We do have walking hours, and that schedule is Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, through Fridays from 9 to 11, and then from 1 to 4. On Tuesday, we have the vaccine walk-in hours from 9 to 11, 1 to 4 p.m., and then from 5 to 7 in the evening. And then on Saturdays from 9 to 11, the vaccines are available to any individuals that wish to get vaccinated ages 6 months and up. You can bring your vaccination card if this is going to be your second or third or a booster. And there is no charge, as we all know. You should not be getting charged to get the COVID vaccine. And we are located at 5635 West 4th Street in Southwest Detroit.
Rita, thank you. I would like to just really reinforce to our audience that not only is Chaz one of our phenomenal federally qualified health clinics, families there are what we call FQHCs all across Detroit and Wayne County. At any point in time, it is now available, the vaccine for your children. And it's been proven to show that they are safe. And in fact, many of the pediatricians that have been on this very program, right, Rita, have said that they not only support the vaccine, but their children are being vaccinated as well. Correct. So we want to let you know, please take up the information that Chaz offers. Look to the Detroit Health Department. They are offering the vaccines. And for parents that are going to Detroit Public Schools Community District, if your school has a health clinic, you now can get the immunization shots there. And I am purposely using the word immunization even versus vaccine, because the vaccines are an immunization, right, Rita?
Correct. And another point that I wanted to make is that we want to make sure that we are addressing any issues that individuals may have to get their immunization. So if you need transportation to Chaz for your immunization, you can call us if you're living within the zip codes that we serve. We can provide transportation, or we can facilitate that somehow. So just let us know, call us, let us know, and we'll make sure that we make that happen for you as well.
Excellent, because transportation, everyone heard that. Transportation doesn't have to be your barrier. There are organizations like Chaz that have transportation. There are organizations like Wayne Health that have mobile clinics, and Henry Ford has mobile clinics. All you have to do literally is do a quick Google search for mobile clinics for vaccines, and you'll get a list. You can also make sure that you know about Chaz and others. So I guess what we're all saying is that it's incredibly important that our babies and our children are getting the immunizations they need, not only the COVID vaccine, but all the other critical immunizations, so that we can keep our children and keep all of our communities safe. Rita, thank you so much for that. And we're going to probably ask you to share the telephone number again at the end. Will that be okay?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, perfect. So we're going to shift back to what your co-moderator missed in the chat. Thank you very much, Molly, who provided the information that our wonderful guest from Michigan Voice wasn't on yet. But I am really delighted to see that we do have Tamika Ramsey with us from Michigan Voice. And you're on mute for the moment, but we'd love for you to come off and let's hear your voice, Tamika, and telling us what we need to to do to make sure, how do we know that we're registered, or what do we need to do? It's right around the corner, the primary.
Yes, and good afternoon, and thank you for having me, and sorry for my tardiness. My name is Tamika Ramsey, and I am the co-director at Michigan Voices, which is a C3 nonpartisan social justice organization that works with amazing organizations like 482 Forward and other organizations very similar across the state, helping to make sure that we are reaching BIPOC communities to make sure that they are civically engaged. I will be the first to say that I often start off with, I'm not political, or I don't like politics. But as a Black woman with locks, with a Black husband, with Black children, it is in my best interest to be political, because it is my survival to be political. And I think people need to understand that. Coming out of COVID, I know that there were a lot of people who were frustrated about what was happening or what wasn't happening in our communities, and how well other communities were being taken care of, and not communities that look like mine. I am from Pontiac, Michigan, born and raised, and this is where I currently live. And so the only way we can make sure that we have the quality of life that we deserve is making sure we elect the people who have our values. You know, we always say, I'm struggling with working and I can't do this because of that. Well, if we had people in office who was fighting for a living wage, right? We talk about $15 an hour, but with inflation, we know that that's not even realistic anymore. But there are people who we vote for who are in office who will advocate and fight to create these laws and policies. And so on August the 2nd, next week, there will be a primary election in the state of Michigan. This election will help us to narrow down who we will vote for in November. And so if you are a Democrat or a Republican and you see multiple names on your ballot, then it is in your best interest to go and vote for the one person who you want to see on the ballot in November. If you say, well, I'm just going to wait until November to vote, the person who you wanted to see on the ballot in November might not make it. And so we are doing a lot of primaries. It may look different, your polling location, your precinct, the person who is representing you may look different, because in 2020, the census happened. And our redistricting, which happened in 2021, is directly correlated with our census numbers and how many people are in a certain area. And so because of redistricting, the Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib is in a different district. We just have a lot of different districts. We have Congresswoman Brenda Lawrence retiring. And so in the 13th district, it is a brand new district, and we have a lot of new people who are on the ballot as well. And so it is just very important that we use this opportunity to know who we're voting for. You can go to the Secretary of State's website, and there's, am I registered? You put that information in and it'll tell you what your polling location is, making sure you have the updated information. If you put your name in there and it's not, you can go and register at your clerk's office today and vote. We are trying to make sure that everybody is voting. So you can do in-person, no reason absentee at your clerk's office. You can also, if you have a ballot where you can go ahead and mail it in or use a drop box, we're asking people to use a drop box or take it directly to the clerk's office at this time, so you don't miss the cutoff date, because the mail is running slow. There are also a couple of different petitions that may be on the ballot, and I'm just getting my spreadsheet so I can tell you what would be on there. The other group that will be on there are delegates, so precinct delegates. You'll be voting for that in your area as well. Once again, your ballot may look different depending on your precinct, on who's going to be voting where. You can also go to the City of Detroit's website with the clerk, Janice Winfrey, and find your updated Detroit polling locations. We ask everybody that if you don't know your polling locations, if you get there the day of the election and it's been moved, to call 866-OUR-VOTE. Once again, that is 866-OUR-VOTE, so that you're able to get your updated polling location and know that you can start voting as early as 7:00 a.m. And as long as you're in line by 8 p.m., you will also be able to vote as well. Once again, we are doing primary, so this is trying to narrow the field down. Oh, sorry about that. Narrow the field down in order to get people to the polls in November. Does anyone have any questions? Did I miss anything?
Hi, Tamika. My name's Rita. You saw me introduced a little earlier, but I'm jumping in here for Demetta. We don't have any questions yet from our audience, but I do have another question, and it's about voter purge. Can you tell us about what voter purge is, and if that's happening?
So the state of Michigan, purging the voter roll is a voter suppression tactic that is used heavily in the South. Oh, I'm sorry. That is used heavily in the South. In the state of Michigan, they do purge the rolls, but only after someone hasn't voted for, I believe it's like 3 or 4 cycles, are they then purged. But once again, I will make sure to get the link so that everyone will be able to just click on the link, put their name and their demographic information, their date of birth, and it will let them know if they are registered to vote and if they are where.
Thank you. You mentioned a couple of websites. Did you mind repeating those websites for us just to make sure for individuals so they can find their polling location?
Yes, I can. And let me get that right now. So the first one I use is the Secretary of State's Am I Registered? And if you Google where am I registered to vote, or if I'm registered to vote, it will come up. Hold on, register to vote in Michigan. So you would go to, it is mvic.sos.state.michigan.us. And once again, all you have to do is use your driver's license information to put it in there, and then they will let you know if you are registered to vote or not. It is not really hard to do, but also to let people know, wherever you register to vote, if you update your voter registration, it also updates your driver's license. So I know I have a young man who was couch surfing, was staying with his grandmother, staying with his girlfriend. He wasn't on the lease to either one. And so he still used his mother's home address, even though that's not where he was living. So if people are couch surfing, if they are moving to different locations, wherever they update their voter registration, then their driver's license is also registered at that same address. Thank you.
So I think that's great information to have. Whatever information you have on your driver's license, that's where you should plan on doing your voting site.
Yes.
Is that correct? Okay.
Yes. Yep.
Perfect.
Thank you for that.
Great. And Demetta, I think she has another question for you,
Yes,
Tamika.
again, so Tamika, we're just going to do brain drain on you. How's that?
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, there we go. I thought you were ready for this. So we also, in addition to talking about the need to vote, and you said something in the very beginning about the reality is that we live in a political world, and for us to get what we need for ourselves and our families, we have to be engaged, but we also have to have knowledge to be engaged in a meaningful way. So 2 things. I'd like to know, how do people get information about the school board elections, and then have a follow-up question. And why do you even think the school board elections are important?
So school board elections are important for 2 different reasons. For me, and I always make this personal, for me, my children have never gone to a community school. The schools in Pontiac were going through a lot of the same things that the schools in Detroit were going through. And not having community schools, it really does limit the socialization of our children, right? Because now you're not catching the bus and coming home with your friends and creating relationships. You're not knowing what's happening in your community because you're going to a school of choice outside of the school district or charter school. So having really good community schools is more than just educating our kids. It really is building our community and getting our village recreated. So for me, that's one of the most important things about community schools. If we don't have good people running our school district, if we don't have people who are committed to the growth of our children and the growth of the school district, then we don't have a city, right? People move to municipalities, to cities, to townships because they want the best school. They want the best community for their kids. And so it is our responsibility to make sure that happens. So that means understanding who's running for the school board. A lot of people use school boards as the platform to run for other positions, but it's like, are you here because of your political ambitions or to meet the needs of the kids in the community? How would you not know that if you're not having conversations with them? So I think like having and knowing who's on the school board, what their values are, what their platform is really important, because these are the people who are helping to build or rebuild your school districts and making sure your children are educated. But also these are people who may run for different positions, so you're not seeing them for the last time. So if they're not being transparent and communicating as a school board trustee, then why would they do any better as a city council person, a trustee, or a state rep? Like, we need to start following people as they are, running for different offices and holding them accountable. And if they're not doing their job in one place, to shut them down and find people who are, because everybody can and should run for something so that they can represent the community in which they live.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That is just right on target. And you lifted up two words that I think are incredibly important. When we think about, and we are aware, and we want our families to be aware, that there are billions of dollars that have come from the Biden administration that are now being distributed throughout the states, and between Governor Whitmer's budget that has increased funding at the local levels for education in an unprecedented way. We've never had this amount of funds available, targeted to poor districts, to children with special needs, to Black and Brown communities, kids with dyslexia, et cetera. But, with money, also it's important for us to talk about accountability and transparency. So I've got a follow-up question. So one of the things, for example, that we like to say with DPN, and I know all our colleagues here with the COVID313 Coalition agree, is that literacy, education is liberation. So if we're not literate and we're not educated, we're not really helping our own liberation move forward. In fact, we're probably perpetuating just the opposite. But that sounds fine. But where do people go to get information about their school board? Are there some websites that you would recommend?
So this is an unwarranted plug here. So as a person who deals with a lot of social justice organizations, that's the first group I go to, right? So like in Pontiac, where I live, it would be Oakland Forward. It is, organizations that really do the work internally, like they are always on the ground. It's organizations like 482 Forward in Detroit, but there is a statewide organization, the Michigan Education Justice Coalition. They have a website, and if they don't have the specific information, they always will send you links or resources to find out. So they have you asking what questions you should be asking, right? As someone who might not know exactly what the responsibility of a school board trustee is, like they give you that information. They also ask questionnaires across the state, working with these municipalities, whether it's a city or a township or a village. They are doing the research that we would need. It is also important to learn, like you said, education is important. And sometimes we don't even know, like with the Flint water crisis, people were going to the city council and upset and frustrated about the quality of water. It was the county commissioners and the emergency manager that made that decision. So people weren't even going to the appropriate body, right? Mm-hmm. And so to understand what the school board is responsible for, I just tell people like MEJC is an amazing organization that I have been a member of for the past, I want to say 5 years, as soon as they became a statewide organization, because they came to Pontiac and started to train and teach residents on how to understand what they should know and then hold the elected officials accountable. Because what you said, people use our ignorance against us, because if we don't know that this person is accountable, they can push it off on somebody all the time. It is our responsibility to at least get the education, which is out there through numerous organizations. Thank you.
Thank you so much for making that point, that it is our responsibility. And just like we can spend time on a lot of cool things, we know that, again, the knowledge is power. And we can exercise that power. I wanted to do 2 other follow-up questions. So, for example, some of us had the opportunity to participate in Lieutenant Governor Gilchrist, one of his education roundtables, in which he was sharing the new funds that are available. And one of the things I wanted to lift up, and I wanted to invite any of our colleagues that are here, particularly from communities where English is a second language. We know that there have been buckets or groups of folks who've been marginalized, have not received adequate funding. We don't have equitable funding, but we are getting closer to it than we have ever been before. I'm just wondering, when you mentioned about accountability, does either Michigan Voice or others have any kind of platforms that you could direct people to? I know Education Trust does. The Michigan Partnership for Equity and Opportunity has key points for parents to be able to help promote. Detroit Parent Network, 482 Forward, and others. Are there some more at the state level? Like, for example, what is it? The League of Women Voters, Michigan's Children, the League for Public Policy. Are there any others that you could recommend that we take a look at to know what a good policy position is that's good for our kids, good for our families, that we can use as we are looking at candidates and see what their positions are?
So thank you for that. So once again, I am always going to push our local organizations. I appreciate the League of Women Voters, but like this, it is a white-led group that is not situated specifically in the city of Pontiac. So I will go back to 482 Forward, Detroit Action, but also on the policy level, if people would go to the Michigan League for Public Policy, right, it provides a platform. It provides a platform on what policies are happening, what's happening in the state budget and where the money is going. And I tell people all the time, especially internally, your priorities, your budget shows your priorities, yes, right? Yes. And so if the state of Michigan isn't funding the schools at a high level, which I believe with the last budget that came out, the current governor has really given money to schools. But MLPP will really help to understand the different policies that are out there and what is good for us and what isn't. And then working with organizations like 482 Forward, Detroit Action, that are located in Detroit, working with groups like Oakland Forward and Oakland County around education. Like, there are a lot of geographically located social justice organizations that will work with you to help you understand these things, and to help you fight for more funding for the schools. Because I think, that's the really important thing. If these politicians are getting elected and are not focused on our babies and providing funding, with Michigan being one of the states that has the lowest per pupil funding, and not holding these state reps, these state senators accountable for where the money in Michigan is going. Like we're just going to be continue and just like a Groundhog's Day effect of fussing with no results and no money continuing to go to our kids.
Yeah, I'm really glad that you brought up about where Michigan stands. A lot of people don't know. We are at the bottom of our 50 states. We are down in like the lowest 10. My dad used to talk about policy in Michigan and call it Mississippi. But he said that back in the 60s. And here we are in 2022, and we still look like that in a lot of ways. I have two last questions. But before I ask my question, Rita, colleagues that are in the space, do we have any other questions? Or even any that have come in through the chat or Facebook?
No, we don't have any questions.
Okay, thank you. So hit me if we do. One of the things, Tamika, you brought up, and we've all heard about the word gerrymandering. We know that that's been at play in the state of Michigan, that undermines even communities that may be the majority. They don't really get to identify their people from their community, particularly for congressional positions. And you mentioned earlier that we now, through the redistricting, have a new district. Could you just take a moment and then maybe tell people where to go to get clarity on the fact that we have a new district and where to get the information about the names of those people that are running versus another district that was redone? There's been a lot of confusion with that, but we need people to do their homework so they can do exactly what you said, identify and vote for the people that we know have been making a difference.
Thank you for that. So the redistricting process took a while to happen. It took almost a full year to happen, but it was a process that happens every 10 years. The state of Michigan, because we lost population with our census count, which has been pushed back on because once again, the president at the time was trying to add questions on there to scare people away from using it. We don't feel that there was a true and accurate count because since this was happening during the beginning of a global pandemic that we were losing our loved ones and didn't really understand what was happening. And so the census, was a cluster, but we trying to bounce back from that. But we got one less district because our population in Michigan has shrunk. And so we had the 13th, the 14th, the 11th, the 12th, the 13th, and the 14th district. And now we no longer have the 14th district. And so there's a new 13th district, there's a new 12th district, and there's a new 11th district. There are a lot of, all the districts are new because they comprise probably some of their former landmass, but different areas as well. And so the city of Detroit now has the 12th and the 13th. And so a part of that is Rashida Tlaib's old district, which she is now in the 12th and running in that district. One of the other candidates is Michael Garrett, the current mayor of Lathrop Village. In the 13th district, these are all new people running. So there is no incumbent like it is in the 11th or the 12th. And so you have individuals like Shri Tanadar, Sherry Day Danyogo.
Danyogo, right? Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Portia Roberson, Adam Hollier.
Yes, yes. So all of these people are politicians with different positions that are all running for Congress right now. And so once again, I think a lot of people want to make sure that Detroit still has Black representation. Because it is the biggest, Blackest city in Michigan. I think we also need to look at who shares our values and who is going to fight for us all the time, not just when it's election time, but all the time. And I think that's what Detroiters expect and deserve, a fighter all the time in the 12th and in the 13th district. And so it's important that if you go to the city clerk's website, and put your information in, you can get a sample ballot, and it will show you everybody who will be on your ballot. And once again, it is different based on your address. So you can't just say this is for all Detroiters, because there are 2 different districts in Detroit. And so it is just important that people go to the city's website or the state's website. But I believe the city or the county website will actually have their ballot, a sample ballot for people to be able to see. And I've already gotten my sample ballot. I've already researched the candidates, and I already know who I'm voting for. So we don't have to wait till the day of the election to do that. You can also, in the city of Detroit, do early, no reason absentee voting. And so if you think you're going to be busy on that day, if you have to work and you don't know how you're going to get off of work for any reason or no reason at all, you can go to satellite locations and you can go ahead and register. And I will make sure there's a spreadsheet with the satellite locations that I will make sure that this group receives, and you can share it out. But it is important to do that information gathering prior to voting, so you can be prepared.
Thank you. So we can create a voting plan.
Yes.
To know what's there, because sometimes you can get into that ballot, that space, and you're not sure. So families, do your homework, just like we tell our children to do. This is the homework that we need to do as citizens of this country to assert that those things that we believe are important for our communities to thrive and for our children to have an equitable and beautiful future. It's up to us right now to make sure that we are holding people accountable, knowing who they are. And thank you, Tamika, so much for identifying where you can go to get the information, because much of the literature that you're going to see just says Jametta Lilly for Congress, but you don't know where Jametta's really running. So get to know who is in your community. Take the time to look at their website to see the issues that they have consistently fought for. Get to see what their skill set is, because to make change is not just passion. It's not just the ability to be able to box, but be strategic, have skills, and know how to move and make things happen. Sometimes the people that you wouldn't necessarily have an agreement with, but that's the nature of politics to get the change that we need. Tamika, as we get ready to wrap up, there is another question that's come in, and it was a good point. One of our colleagues, of course, Molly Sweeney with 482 Forward, brought up is that the reality is our school board elections are not on the same timeline. Can you take just a moment and explain that difference to our families?
So the school board, we don't necessarily, they're not necessarily in the primary. And so they will usually be on the general election. So they're normally in November. There are some times when special elections for school boards happen in May, but our timeline is different. And there are, depending on the school district, there could be rolling positions. And so it usually is every 2 years that there are positions on the school board that are up for re-election. So that's not everybody at one time, usually. Sometimes there is, depending on if it's staggered or not. So it is important. Once again, for school board, it is really important to do the education outreach. It's important for everybody all the time. Just because you see a lot of ads, you get a lot of mailers, it doesn't mean that this is the best person. It just means that this person has a lot of money, right?
Yes,
and we
absolutely.
also need to know where that money is coming from. Because if you have this person who fundraises, who is a billionaire and gives out money to public school candidates, right? Then you know what, if that candidate gets elected, what they're likely to do in office. And that is to take away money from our public schools that our tax dollars pay for, and try to give them to private schools that really should be a separation of church and state, and tax dollars shouldn't go to private entities. So it's really important, once again, to do your own research and not just look at if you keep hearing commercials or if you keep getting mailers, but what this person has done in the past or what they say their platform is if they are a new candidate.
Thank you so much for lifting that up. And also what I want to lift up is that 482 Forward is doing a Detroit School Board Candidate Forum. So to the very point that you're saying, Tamika, that every single group of families in whatever your school district is needs to be looking at this and taking it seriously. So families want you to know that 482 Forward is doing a Detroit School Board Candidate Forum. It's going to be Thursday, October the 20th at 5:30. And we're going to make sure that you get the location for that. And Detroit Parent Network is proud to be able to join and help promote that, because we have to make sure that our parents know that their voices need to be heard. And the best way to do that is also to hear what our school board members are thinking, because they are part of the governance backbone to whoever is that superintendent. And so as we get ready to close, any last thoughts for us? Because we know not only is the primary important, because then that will determine who's in the general election, but we stand on the eve of some potentially profound changes that may be necessary in this country to continue the progression of trying to have equity and have opportunity as we think about the 2024. Is there anything that you'd like to say to us that we should be keeping an eye on, whether it's not only in Michigan, but other places, and how people are trying to make sure that the voices of people who've been adversely impacted by systemic and ongoing racism, and the fact that 50 years later, you and I no longer have a choice what to do with our bodies?
Well, thank you for that.
My granddaughter doesn't have the choice that I had. So we're in incredible times. The Voting Rights Act has not been passed. So it's not just about what's happening in our own neighborhood, isn't it? It's also what's happening at these state levels and our national level. Some thoughts that you'd like to leave with us in parting.
So it's just really important for us to know, one, that as a Black woman, there is nobody coming to save me. Like, I have to save myself. My community and I have to save each other. And so if we stop waiting for somebody to come get us, we have to be proactive in our own survival. And I think that's one of the biggest things. Like, we cannot wait. Black women have had body autonomy in this country for a good 35 years, literally. Like, Black women have been able to say what can and cannot happen with their body. And I mean, depending on which doctor you go to, you still don't have it in this country, right? As Black women have the highest maternal death rate, right? Which is crazy. So it is just important that we fight. Reproductive justice, it is under attack. When they came for Roe v. Wade, it's not just about abortions, right? It is about a woman's right to choose. We don't hear a lot of those stories. And if you do, it was, I was a young woman and, I got pregnant, I had to have an abortion. But there are a lot of people like myself who was pregnant and married and excited to be pregnant and had the baby wasn't thriving in the womb and I had a partial miscarriage, but the doctor said you have to pass this naturally, right? And the ER doctor and I called my OBGYN and she said, no, that could be bad for your health. And we need to get you into the hospital as soon as possible. That was considered an abortion, right? Those type of things. We don't have those conversations of women having to make difficult decisions during pregnancies that they wanted to have. Yeah. So it's not just about abortion, but it is about our right to be able to pick and choose what we do with our body and when we do it, right? We also are fighting anti-voter suppression bills in the state, right? They didn't get the results that they wanted in 2020. And so they started to try to reduce our ability to vote. These are people who are currently in office. If we don't like the fact that they tried to steal our right to vote, we need to take their job from them. And we can do that. The one last thing I will say is people of color know the criminal justice system is not fair. but we also do not vote for the judges. There is a place on your ballot to vote for judges. And the Michigan Supreme Court has the ability to be very progressive, to fight for our rights, because we see that when politicians can't agree, they go to the Supreme Court or they go to the state Supreme Court. And if we don't have judges who believe and share our values, we will continue to lose. And so I will say we are the change that we need to see. We are the hope of tomorrow. And if we don't do it for us, then we need to do it for our kids or for our grandkids, because this is not the America that my mother wanted her granddaughters to grow up in. And this is not the America that I want my grandkids to grow up in. And if I don't like this America, it is my responsibility to change it. And my first change will be making a vote for the people who will make sure that my rights and quality of life is good. Thank you.
That is a drop the mic. And that is a challenge that we want to say to all of our families. Tamika, I'm hoping our friends at DPTV will take that last clip, and all of us need to grab that to say that we are the change that is needed. We are the change that is needed, and we must do it today to ensure that we don't continually have the January 6th and all of the other things that we know undermine the credibility of this experiment called democracy, which we now understand is much more fragile than ever before. But we can change that. So the COVID313 Community Coalition for Families and Youth is about empowering our community with knowledge and loving on each other through this extraordinarily challenging time to take us to a new place, take us to the place that we know is possible and the change that we know is possible. And we know that because we've witnessed it, and our grandmothers and our grandparents and our granddads have witnessed it. So we stand on these shoulders, just like in this little picture that we have right here. Is that baby girl is standing on the shoulders of her daddy, and her daddy is standing on the shoulders of many others that are help moving the change and moving progress forward, but not if we don't vote. So please make sure October the 20th is when the awesome 482 Forward is doing a forum for taking a look at and hearing the folks who are running for the Detroit School Board. That's an important opportunity. Again, Detroit Parent Network is looking forward to being part of that. We're also going to be letting you know that the Detroit Parent Network is looking forward to partnering with the Community Education Commission and others to say, how can we begin to help more parents understand this phenomenal opportunity of the funding that's been made available from this administration, our state administration, Governor Whitmer and Lieutenant Governor Gilchrist. How do we make sure that it's really getting to the kids that need it and that is accountable for us? The other thing we want you to be sure is that you're doing your homework. Come on, do it. Get to the websites, understand who these folks are that need our vote, not just the literature, not just what you might see on social media, but you're reading about them so that we can be informed and make good decisions. So in our closing, I want to remind you that we are going to take a little bit of a hit pause and we're going to take off the rest of the month of August. And we are going to return in September the 22nd. A whole lot of things may have happened by that time, whether it's better understanding how we stay safe from our health, finding out what the school systems are doing in response to this, as well as opportunities to make sure that we are all healthier, and to find out where we are with the funding that's been made available for whether you have had issues with your home, flooding, etc., job opportunities, things that will keep us safe and move Michigan forward. Please make sure you return with us on September the 22nd, and that you'll join us at the October 20th forum with 482 Forward. Last but not least, I'm going to ask Rita, our wonderful colleague from CHAS, to share with us again the telephone number where you and families and your young children can come get the immunizations. But really, it's not just young children. We need everyone in the family to be connected to a medical home, because we know that through those connections, we in fact can be a healthier and more thriving community.
Yes, correct. So again, the number here at CHAS is 313-849-3920, and that is a number to call to schedule an appointment for your COVID vaccine immunization. And we also have walk-in, and we will make sure that we put the link to the walk-in schedule in the chat for the comments. But it's Monday through Saturday, and we also have evening hours on Tuesdays from 5 to 7.
Great. And so we've also put in the chat information from the Detroit Health Department where you can go literally anywhere in the community, find out what are the special days. There are events happening at parks all across the city, not only in Detroit, but also you can get a chance to see what's going on in Wayne County. We have also put in the chat for you where you can make a connection to Wayne Health. Wayne Health was one of the first, and actually really proud to say, Wayne State University, with the guidance of the Michigan Corona Task Force on Racial Disparities, helped to fund the creation of mobile units during COVID to get tested, but now also doing vaccines and really important health screening to keep us well and healthy, not only through COVID, but afterwards. So please, family, take advantage of these opportunities. Take advantage of this beautiful weather, get outside, walk, talk, sing to your children, and above all, everyone, stay safe, stay informed, be powerful. And with that, this is how we roll with COVID-313. With everyone that's in our space, come on, show the real you. We'd ask people to open up. We'd like to go on a gallery view. All of us are not here today. Hey, Christy. All of us are not able to have joined today. You are seeing just a small crew, but we also want to thank the Detroit Public TV that has been walking this through with us for what? How many years? 12 years? No. The last 2.5 years. And so we thank them. Christine, it's a joy. And I'd like to, all of you who don't know, it's not a big secret, but we're letting everybody know, is send some love, a great big hug to Terry Whitfield and to Molly Sweeney, part of the backbone of this happening, because they're getting to start a whole new venture in their life. They will both be parents very shortly. So we are a coalition that's about families, and we are so happy to know and to love on two of our members who are going to be expanding their families as all of us lift up and love all of our families so we can all thrive. Okay, anything else for the cause? Anyone other comments? If not, as they say, it's a wrap. Thank you so much. Everyone take care.